Hello, this is Greg Allison with Galactic Greg's coming to you from the wee hours of 1 February 2021. Time on deck 01:3500 hours Central Daylight Time. Now, as you may know, Elon Musk has gotten a bit of a hot spot with the FAA, and he may have other challenges down the road too, as you might know. I just did a couple of videos. Well, I did one recently and one further back that pertain to this. I did a video just a couple of days ago on SpaceX having two new sea launch platforms, two oil rigs to launch from. And I've said that's a really good move. And I talked about potential launch licensing issues and how this may help alleviate them. And I say help, not wipe them away. It's some people erroneously believe. And I'm going to show you text from the 1967 Outer Space Treaty as to why him even launching in space. Yes, he's still under U.S. regulation. And I'm going to show you code straight from the FAA, legal code, so that you can understand the kind of things and parameters that a company has to deal with when they're launching a vehicle that pertains to what's possibly going on with this accident to some detail. All that said, what you need to know is that on the 9th of December, SpaceX had their launch of their serial number 8 Starship. And they had a really good launch. They had a good flight, but upon landing, well, they had a bit of an issue as it came in hard. It wasn't getting enough fuel to the intakes apparently on the engines, as we're told. And well, it exploded on the pad. And that prompted a launch, then prompted an accident investigation by the FAA, the Federal Aviation Administration, who provides the launch licenses for launches like this. And so it just so happens that the FAA, some people claim, we haven't seen actual FAA pronouncements in any detail on this, but they claim there's two things that concern the FAA that prompted this accident investigation. One was the actual explosion on landing, but the other is some undisclosed violation in terms of the launch license itself. Now, we're not told exactly what that is, and that's got a lot of people chafing at the bit to know what it is. And why they're not telling us, I don't know. You would think and hope that the FAA would be more transparent, being a federal taxpayer organization, but for some reason they've deemed not to at this time. Maybe they will become more so later, but I'm sure SpaceX knows what that is by now. So it's vitally important to, they don't fly without the FAA's approval. Now, nominally speaking, SpaceX is trying to get a launch of serial number 9 this morning at sometime today on the 1st of February. This is a Monday. Now, that may have already happened by the time I record this, or maybe they're still in a holdup vis-a-vis these violations that are under investigation now. So it remains to be seen as to whether or not FAA will allow SpaceX to fly. It's got a lot of people chomping a bit. Oh my God, what terrible FAA. Well, the FAA's charge is public safety. We're going to go into that. I'm going to show you what the federal code says. And I'm going to start out with the international 1967 International Space Treaty, because I've heard several people just of late, even I used to this for years back, say, well, if they go out to sea so many miles, they're not under launch license authority. They can do whatever they want to. No, not according to international treaty. That's not exactly true. So, and believe you me, I have launched myself. Yes, I have got an FAA launch license, launching from 200 miles out in the Gulf of Mexico. And to prove it to you, I'm going to show you video. I'm going to show you stuff of my launch, so and things I've done, just to prove that point to you. So, a lot of people think they know because, well, it's international waters. No, there's more to it than that. Trust me. Okay, I've gotten arguments with lots of people about that, but I have been there, done it, and I'll show you the law. Okay, I'm going to show you the code. I'm going to show you the international treaty, 1967 Outer Space Treaty. Here we are, my friends, from the United Nations. Okay, this is straight from the United Nations website. All right, my friends. This is, the name sounds a whole lot like the name on the Moon Treaty, which came out later, but this is not the Moon Treaty, which we kept the United States men party to, thankfully, when there are activities that we've conducted from the L5 Society, back when I was in the phone tree and politically active in the L5 Society in its very early days, fighting the Moon Treaty in the late 1970s. Thankfully, we didn't sign that one, but we're not, party to it, but we are party to this one. most unfortunately. Maybe some president will see fit to get us unparty to it. But okay, let's go into this. There you go. Each state part of the treaty that launches or procures launching to an object in outer space, including moon and other celestial bodies, for each state for whose territory or facility the object is launched. So if you launch it, or if you're the territory from which it's launched, you are liable for damage to another state party. The states party to the treaty shall bear international responsibility for national activities in outer space, including the moon and other celestial bodies, whether such activities are carried out by governmental agencies or non-governmental entities, and for assuming the national activities are carried out in conformity with provisions set forth in the present treaty. The activities non-governmental entities in outer space, including the moon and other celestial bodies, shall require authorization and continuing supervision by appropriate state party to the treaty. Get that, continuing supervision. So what this says is that you have to have authorization and continuing supervision, even if you are a private entity. So if you, as an individual or as a corporation that is a citizen, or if you're a citizen of a nation that's part of this treaty, if you are a company that's registered in a state party of this treaty, you are required to operate in space, to have your activities approved and supervised. Get that? By an international treaty. And according to our precedents, treaty goes even above Constitution. This is the highest law because we signed this as a treaty. This is constitutionally, even in our Constitution, we allow for the treaties to outrank the Constitution. This is the highest law right here, and it requires that it be authorized and supervised by the nation state itself. You know, you just can't get off the hook, and it does not give exclusions for launching from the ocean. Bing, let's go over to the FAA. Let's talk about what kind of risk criteria they look at. So what they want to know here is public risk, because like I said, the FAA is in charge of ensuring public safety. So a launch operator, you know, this is from a legal, this is all legal code, okay? This is actual legal code that this is based from, and this is from Cornell Law School. You can find this kind of stuff on the FAA too. But a launch operator may initiate the flight or launch vehicle only if safety analysis performed under paragraph 7, there you go, that's good. This section demonstrates that any risk to the public satisfies the following public risk criteria. Remember I talked in my previous video about E sub C. Yeah, I know, because I had to do this. You know, I get so many people tell me, oh, Greg, that's not this, it's not that. Dudes, I've been there, I've done that, okay? Oh, a launch operator may initiate the flight of a launch vehicle only if the total risk associated with the launch to all members of the public, excluding persons in waterborne vessels and aircraft, comes to that later, does not exceed the expected number of 1 to the 10⁻⁴ casualties. Therefore, you've got to have your casualty rate less than 1 in 10,000. So if you're there, you're good for this particular category. This total risk, but there's higher risk categories. The total risk consists of risk posed by impacting inert and explosive debris, toxic releases, far-field blast overpressure. Blast overpressure, yeah. The FAA will determine whether to approve public risk due to any other hazard associated with the proposed flight of a launch vehicle on a case-by-case basis. The E sub C criterion applies to each launch from liftoff through orbital insertion of an orbital launch through through final impact for a suborbital launch. E sub C, that's the probability of casualty, my friends. E sub C. I mentioned that in a previous video, and I pulled it up here. This is legal code, by the way, legal code. And this is backed up by more legal code. This is down, I went a few directories down in here. And so let's go a little bit further. operator may initiate flight only at the risk to an individual member. So if there's one specific member of the public who might be at more risk, any individual member of the public does not exceed the casualty rate of 1 in a million per launch. So yeah, over land, yeah, you got a little bit more wiggle room, but to any one individual, if you put any one more individual to 1 in a million, nope. All right, for water, the launch operator may establish a waterborne vessel hazard analysis area necessary to ensure the probability of impact with the debris capable of causing casualty of waterborne vessels does not exceed basically 1 in 100,000. Okay, 1 to 10 minus 5. And for air, a launch operator must establish any aircraft hazard area necessary to ensure the probability of hazard of impact, with debris capable of causing casualty to the aircraft does not exceed 1 to 10 minus 6. Again, a 1 in a million. So you better not be hitting an airplane. So that was a cool thing with me launching. About 200 miles out in the Gulf of Mexico, you don't have a lot of little Cessna aircraft flying around, and we could shut down the major Gulf routes. That was a good thing about scheduling with Eglin Air Force bases, which is what I did. And yeah, we got a major Gulf route really rerouted. They had to take a longer route, burn more fuel, but the Air Force worked with us on that. Cost probably that airline some money. Fortunately, we didn't have to eat that. We did pay some launch fee to Eglin Air Force Base. Those fees have gone up quite a bit since we've done that. But they were very, very easy to work with. They were good. Yeah, they were professional. They solved their business, but it worked out really well. Now let's show you what this blast overpressure looks like, my friends. Let's go back. Where was the blast over? There's more on it down here. Hang on. Let's go on down here. There's more on that. Debris threshold. A launch operator's flight safety analysis performed as required by paragraph F of this section must account for any inert debris impact with a mean expected kinetic energy of greater than or equal to 11 foot-pounds. It ain't hard to get 11 foot-pounds, my friend, especially when you're going fast, except for the far-field blast overpressure effects analysis. A peak incident overpressure of greater than or equal to 1 psi due to any explosive impact. See, here's the threshold, 1 psi. So impact of a debris at 11 foot-pounds or a pressure of 1 psi. Now I'm going to show you that here again in a minute. Incorporate a probabilistic model that accounts for the probability of casualty due to debris expected to impact with the kinetic energy. Well, see, I've heard from some sources that there was some ejecta from the crash of SN8 that went high speed and went some good distance. I don't have any good details on that, but that is probably the biggest concern with a ground crash. That kind of stuff can happen. It says when applying the 1 psi threshold to determine potential casualties due to blast overpressure analysis must, and it goes into here all the things you got to take into account for that. So they're quite concerned with this. There's a lot of modeling to be done. You got a lot of collision avoidance stuff to look into with this. You have to file notice to airmen, notice to seamen. If you're going into orbit, you got to know what the orbits of other satellites are, and so you're not going to hit them. There's a lot to be done, and that gets to be harder with all the constellations that SpaceX is tossing up right now. I say, hey, I'm pro SpaceX, by the way, but I'm just letting you know what is required by law. I give it to you from here, telling you that you don't get out of it. If you're a citizen of a country, if your company is part of that nation, bam, you're under this. And this does not allow for any exclusions. All right. And here I looked at the particular things that pertain to that. Now, what's 1 psi? Well, I mentioned before that it was said that the Saturn V or the N1 Soviet moon rocket had an explosive equivalent of a small atom bomb. And I do have some blast overpressure diagrams here for some fairly small nuclear devices. Now, the spaceship full stack with the super heavy has got about twice as much fuel as the N1. Bear in mind, the N1 blew up just over the pad and slung debris for 6 miles. Debris. Yeah. and that debris, it would have exceeded 11 foot-pounds. So 6 miles is a starting point for a ship like future spaceships with a full stack. Now the SN8 didn't have that much fuel. SN9 coming up won't have as much fuel as a Saturn V or an N1, but the full Starship will. And what is the actual explosive content or potential of a SN8? Well, I don't know. We just may find out. They had some debris that got flung a good distance. Sometimes you get a lot of debris flung a good distance. It just depends. So here is a 50 kiloton surface burst of a nuke. And all this comes from FEMA, by the way. This is from FEMA. This is from a radsheltersforyou.com website. This comes from the Nuclear Attack Environment Handbook that FEMA put out in 1990, August thereof. Federal Emergency Management Association, or agency, excuse me. And so this shows the 1 psi at 5.8 miles. But if at altitude burst, and it's not that high, not quite a mile, we've got, which look, you know, we're flying a lot higher than that with Starship. Even SN8 flew higher than this. It was up here, you know. So, you know, a mile's 5,280 feet basically. So you're going a lot higher than that here. You know, what we're shooting for tens of thousands of feet. So, but if it blows up just above pad, this might be what this is actually a smaller burst. I don't know why they're not breaking this apples to apples. That's 500. This is 200. Well, look, this is out 6.5 miles at 1 psi. So the higher you're up, you know, that can go out a little bit farther. This is a 50 kiloton burst. Now, mind you that Hiroshima was on the order of 15 kiloton. They're showing this at 1.1 miles. Now, again, they're not showing apples to apples here, but that's 8.8 miles. So, yeah, I don't believe we're in the threshold of a 1 megaton airburst. I hope not. It's going out toward 11 miles. So, yeah, a little over 11 miles. So that's just to give you some idea that, you know, you can expect just even the 1 psi radius to be really large. So what does that do? Well, there's different thresholds of damage here at different levels. A 1 psi, you know, for this scenario is showing like almost 9 miles. A skin lacerations from glass fragments, and get impact injury threshold about 1.8 psi, well, just almost 2. Impact skull fracture threshold, serious glass wound threshold 2.3. Impact lethality, so you can kill you at 3.3. Eardrum failure is up to 5. I don't know. I think my eardrums would be popping down here. You're talking about blowing them out, not permanently. So you're totally blowing your eardrums out. Krakatoa blew out eardrums, by the way, of people in Indonesia when it went off. There were a number of people there that had that happen. Hello. We're going to share a PowerPoint. Oh, that should have been my first slide. That's my Hart Cat's Prize rocket. Okay, let's get up here. There's some of the rockets with the High Altitude Research Corporation, my project Halo, both two projects I was involved in. This is actually a sea launch right here of a balloon launch return vehicle. That was a test flight on ground with a subscale version of it. That's the subscale version being rocket launched. That's bungee launched. You know, we did several prototypes. This is our Halo High Altitude Liftoff Sky Launch 2 rocket on the deck of the NASA Pearl River barge. And there's the balloon that lofted in there. It had a hybrid rocket motor. That was in the year of 1998 on the 20th of June. And the deck of that boat was hot enough to fry an egg on easily. It was hot. And here's our balloon launch return vehicle. That's the hybrid motor that went in it. That's the fuel grain, the oxidizer, and that's my bud Tim Pickens. Oh yeah, let me blow this up, make it larger. Bing. Sorry about that, guys. View these pictures again. That's the balloon launch from the ocean there. Yeah, so this is here on the deck of the C. Michael Calais, a utility boat out in the Gulf of Mexico in Eglin Air Force Range. That's some of the tracking monitoring equipment we had on our boat, and our high gain antenna, my friend Bill Brown. C. Michael Calais. And that little blonde tuft of hair right there, that hand going, that's me. And that's our balloon launch return vehicle. That's our package that was for controlling it. Also, it had a cold gas reaction control system to put it on the azimuth we wanted. This is the deck of the C. Michael Calais. That's Mr. Mike Smith. He was the chief engineer for Raven, which became Aerostar, the balloon manufacturer. This is another experiment we launched from the Gulf of Mexico. This was just a balloon flight experiment with a package for a jet propulsion laboratory called the Martian Aerobot. Actually, in this mission, the balloon failed due to Aerostar error. They didn't tie the top knot tight enough, and it come loose at the very top. This is our catch prize rocket motor, cheap access to space firing or test firings. That's the avionics we developed ourselves. You didn't have cell phones with all the nifty stuff in them back in those days. That's our launch electronics with Bella switches so that it would not accidentally fire below a certain altitude. Those switches had to expand a certain degree to be fired. We had them set for a specific altitude. So we had 4 of these ground stations for this launch. We are on the deck of the Mr. Offshore in this case. The Mr. Offshore. And that's our rocket. We're putting it together out there. This is our catch prize rocket. Yeah, this is no small rocket, my friends. Rescue boat. This is the rocket assembled in its launch gondola. This was intended to keep the nitrous oxide warm. That in the it's a greenhouse, basically, a launch gondola greenhouse. The fins are for high altitude, and the avionics are up here. You can see the antennas. And we had a payload in here, which is actually provided to us by JP Aerospace, our friendly competitor, very friendly competitor. So there you go. I'm going to show you the video of that now. Halo, literally, altitude liftoff. Halo, you hear me say halo? I mean it. And here it is. This is our Heart Catch Prize launch. This is the year 2000. Balloon package.
Hope it doesn't drop now.
It's still brown top. Project I headed up, I was the president of Altitude Research Corporation in this launch. Here, we're going to stop that before it jumps off to some other video. I'm going to show you one more video. We did have a problem with the rocket, but we did accomplish something with the launch with this. We actually made the Guinness Book of World Records for a previous launch of our Halo Skylaunch 1 rocket. So rocket going right up there. All right. So we had all kind of telemetry being downlinked on a video overlay board. No data over the video overlay board. So there you go. That's enough of that. So the balloon is fully expanded at altitude. It was like hanging really limp, a lot of plastic below it before it got up to there. I'm going to show you some other aspects of 1967 Outer Space Treaty in a follow-up video. We're going to talk about property rights briefly. And this is going to be of great concern also to SpaceX, everybody else operating in space. Since I got these website up, I'm going to go ahead and do this video in a moment. But as you can see, the FAA still has jurisdiction, or somebody in the federal agencies has jurisdiction. The federal government is required to have jurisdiction over every launch. Now, it could be. I'll show you one other thing. There is a way out, and it may be. Well, first I would say the easiest thing to do is still to launch from the oil rigs. Why? The probability of casualty goes way down. The overpressure concern goes way down. And in terms of the airmen and seamen, they're so far apart, it's really hard to hit them, to be honest. Of course, you got a big vehicle like a Starship. It may not be so true. It may not be quite so true. But especially, but the more remote area you're at, the better off you are. I have launched the Eastern Corridor, air traffic corridor from the coast of North Carolina from Topsail Beach. I had a 30-minute launch window there. When I was out at sea, I had 4 days running that I could choose my launch from in case I had weather problems or other issues come up. And each day I had 2 4-hour launch windows, 2 4-hour launch windows. Yeah, that's what I got working with Eglin Air Force Base. The cool thing now, if you're in the western, around Texas, if you're in the western part of the Gulf of Mexico, all the way down to about where Florida begins, a whole area is full of oil rigs, just stock full of oil rigs. If, however, you are underneath the coast of Florida, see, Florida don't allow all that oil stuff offshore. But it works for Eglin Air Force Base because that gives them a nice little bombing test range. Eglin, Tyndall, all those Air Force bases around Florida love it because they got their ranges they can operate in down there. And Eglin controls that space. And Eglin's easy to work with. So, hey, Elon, maybe your operations operate out of Pensacola or Mobile. Now come to Mobile. You got great port facilities, all kind of stuff there. Plus stuff that you don't find at Pensacola. You got all kind of great port facilities in Mobile, and the mobilization cost for going down to and you've already splashed down in there. So you got some operational experience in that area. Just go 200 miles out like I did, and bada bing, bada bang. It will be a lot easier on you in terms of the overall regulations. Yeah, you still got to file, but it will be a lot easier, especially if you work with Eglin Air Force Base. FAA won't be so tight on your rear end about stuff. So they let Eglin assume a certain degree of things. Now you go into orbit, yeah, Eglin's not covering that part, but they can definitely cover the stuff in the sea and the atmosphere. They can help you with that stuff. Of course, you got to do all your regular stuff. You got to report your frequencies, and Eglin's really concerned about what frequencies you operate with. Because, they got their military systems there. They don't want to be interfered with. And, of course, you don't want them to interfere with you either with their radars and such. And you know that, Elon. But I'm going to tell you, the best place to operate from is the eastern part of the Gulf of Mexico, because you're out of that eastern air corridor. There's just one Gulf air route that's got to be shut down. And it gives you a lot of operational flexibility. So if you're looking for that, that's a good place to go. But if you want to mobilize your stuff all the way from Boca Chica to that area, okay. But if you're flying in the western Texas, yeah, you still got a lot of oil platforms out there and really expensive. Do you really want to go there? As long as you can satisfy the FAA, your E sub C is low enough, there you go. I guess you can. It certainly beats being 2 miles from Boca Chica. Yeah, I know they evacuate the people from Boca Chica, but still, wow. A lot of personal property still there too. 2 miles from Boca Chica. So there you are. This is why, again, go back to my video I just did on oil rigs. That's a great idea. But it doesn't absolve SpaceX of everything. Just bear that in mind. And even if the FAA or nobody in the federal government stuff to regulate this stuff, or something major happen, you can bet the other countries would, if we had some incident with another country, you can bet they would come back. Even other countries that might consider SpaceX competition might go to the UN and file grievances to enforce the 1967 Space Treaty, and the United States would have to comply at that point. So you don't get a get out of jail free card, not at all. All that said, and look, I did it. I launched 200 miles out, which is well out in international waters. And I still filed with the FAA and with Eglin. Bingo. I was required to. Maybe they got something different today. That's what I did in 2000. But regulations seldom get less. Regulations seldom get less complex. In fact, between my launch in 1997 of my Halo SO1 rocket and my 2000 launch of the Hart Cat's Prize rocket, regulations got a lot stiffer, and all that was before the event of 9/11. So there you go, my friends. There's a lot to consider there, and that's the reality. And I wish SpaceX get luck with this SN9 launch. I hope they can pull it off this morning, and hope it's successful, and I hope it touches down and everything's nice and pretty after the fact. And if it don't fly, when it does fly, let's hope that's the case. And that may all be history before I post this video. I don't know. We'll see. Well, that said, I do have a follow-up video I'm going to do on property rights in space. And I know something about that. Buzz Aldrin cited me on property rights in space. How about that? So thank y'all for watching.